Welcome to ThinkTech on a given Thursday. This is ThinkTech Talks here in the Thursday 3 to 4 block. We have two shows for you. One is about Gartner, catching up with Gartner, and the other is about space, the Space Consortium and robotics in space. First, let me introduce our guest for the first half, Dale Aiello, who has been representing Gartner in Hawaii since 1932.
Mm-hmm.
Close. Welcome to the show, Dale.
Thank you.
32, 92, it's all the same.
Same thing.
You're looking remarkably well preserved, Dale.
For 100 years old.
And I'm going to let him introduce George Spafford from Gartner, who's a visiting fireman coming here for a couple of speeches right here in this building, the Plaza Club, just this morning. So can you please introduce George Spafford?
Yes. Gartner is a research company. We have about 950 analysts worldwide that cover the entire spectrum of IT. And George is one of our distinguished analysts. It's world-renowned as an author of several books on IT infrastructure, process, and management improvement. George has been with Gartner, I think, about 3 years, and hails from Michigan, so I can tell by his suntan he's not from Hawaii.
You have to spend more time.
I know, I agree. And so this morning, George did a couple of presentations on IT infrastructure process and management, and he's our resident brain trust on this particular topic.
That's great. Welcome to Hawaii.
Well, thank you.
We'll show you Waikiki Beach later on.
Absolutely.
So, not all the analysts, 950 analysts, not all the analysts do the same analysis. What is your area of analysis?
Certainly. I'm in IT operations, and what I specialize in are processes and process improvement. It sets me a little bit different than some analysts who cover tools and process. My interest is, why don't IT organizations always deliver the benefits that businesses want? And when we look at it, a lot of times it's process issues, people issues, etc. So years ago, I kind of stopped doing the technical thing and started focusing on the people, the process, etc.
That's more fun, isn't it?
It's very interesting.
It's all psychology,
There's a lot of psychology.
So, if I wanted to be you, what would I study?
I guess people.
People.
Yeah, I look at what people do, and then also, it's interesting how history repeats itself. And you look at a lot of the lessons learned during the quality management revolution following World War II in Japan and in the United States. And if you pull forward the works of Dr. Deming, Dr. Ishikawa, you name it, into today, a lot of it is very relevant. And IT, who's been very much a cottage artisan industry, is having to revisit process, revisit quality, in some cases visit it for the first time so they can have stable, predictable operations. So it's partially people, it's partially quality, and looking at how we can get people to basically improve over time.
Yeah, but it strikes me as that this is a moving target in every way possible. And the technology moves, certainly Gartner follows that as well as anyone in the world.
Absolutely.
How do you follow that? How do you follow moving technology, which is, expanding and pushing the envelope all day long? How do you stay current with that?
Well, I'm very lucky in that regard because of Gartner's size and the talent that we have. If I want to go talk to somebody about what's going on with cloud computing, what's going on with application release automation, whatever type of technology, there's somebody I can call and have a discussion with. And then if we're going to help a client and we need to, for example, address both process and tools, many times we'll team up. So instead of trying to be like the Swiss Army knife, you got a little bit of everything but not really a very good version of anything, we'll try to bring the right resources to bear to help the client.
So it's a multidisciplinary kind of approach. You have teams of analysts that work together on a given client.
Yes.
Is that what happens?
Well, in a given area, so like in IT operations, which is my group, we have probably somewhere in the area of 30 analysts. And we do a lot of inquiry calls, we do visits with clients, stuff like that. And it's not unusual at all to have an inquiry call where there's several of us there because we're trying to make sure we give the best coverage that we can to help the client.
You're dealing with enterprise level, corporate IT, right? This isn't a mom and pop thing.
Typically, they have to be large enough to realize that they've reached a point where they need to have the stability, the reliability, etc., the security necessary that, for example, processes bring. A lot of smaller shops, they're small enough that they can do it by brute force and maybe a dose of luck, so they don't always need it the same as the big companies.
Aside from the speeches, which I want to cover with you today, how do you normally spend your day as an analyst, an IT analyst with a team of other analysts who are working with you, for you? What do you do all day? Do you talk to clientele all day? Do you have video conferencing? What do you do?
Well, it's very interesting. No day is exactly like the other days, if you will. On one hand, we're doing inquiry calls with organizations all over the world. And that's fascinating because I might have calls with somebody in Africa, then somebody in China, then somebody in Europe, then two people from the United States. It's very interesting to see those different dynamics that are going on.
At 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure.
Sometimes you'll have some weird ones. But also, too, what we do is we have internal calls where we have like research communities to talk about topics like smart machines, what's evolving there, talking about things that are going in development, things that are going on in operations. We also will have like joint calls where several of us are working on a research note together or some type of project. So the day can vary quite a bit, but it's usually some mix of those things.
So aside from dealing with clients and giving speeches, which I do want to get to, you're also publishing.
Yes.
Because I know that Dale Aiello sends around a ton of stuff, very valuable. It's the way people gauge their moves to read what Gartner is saying. What Gartner is saying, something about General Motors, how Gartner is saying that so goes the nation, something like that.
E.F. Hutton, when Gartner speaks, everybody listens.
That's it.
That's why the plane got so quiet the other day. I wondered what was going on. Well, it's really neat because what happens is if you talk to a lot of people, you start to hear patterns. Like you'll notice, wow, everybody's bringing up release management. They need to improve how they're moving things into production. Or you all of a sudden notice an uptick in people saying, we're not getting the value that we need from problem management and how we go about identifying root cause and how we're going to resolve whatever it is that's going on, if you will. And when you start noticing these trends, it's like, oh, okay, I need to make a mental note. At some point when the time is right, I should write on this. Kind of a ballpark rule of thumb is that at any given time, an analyst is probably only writing about 20% of what they're collecting because we have so many interactions going on, and then you're writing kind of as time permits. Now, some of my colleagues are blessed with the ability to just write. I mean, they can flick the machine on and they write.
It's a special talent.
It's an amazing talent, and it's one I don't possess. I have to be in the right mood, and then when it strikes me, I can get a research.
But it's part of the job. Is it something like in academia, publish or perish? Must you do this? Is this part of the way an analyst functions?
Well, it's part of the job description. I mean, you need to have good analytical skills, good communication skills, be able to think on your feet, if you will. And we do have people who can help. We have professional writers who can help people who have challenges writing. So there's a number of ways to go about doing it, but we do need to publish. We have targets that we have to hit.
Targets, for the clientele you describe. So your clientele are going to be big companies, and you're going to be, looking at things from the point of view of a big company. And I guess that would include any big company, including government, including academia itself, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
Including big corporations, and you're going to be giving them advice on various things and solving their problems, and giving them words for the future, wisdom for the future, a path to follow in designing what they're going to do down the road. Yeah.
And sometimes even wisdom from the past. What's really interesting is you have organizations at varying points in their evolution, if you will, and how they're relying on IT. And so like you have things that, for example, financial services might implement earlier than others because they tend to know that time is money. And they understand the impacts of if we're down, we're going to lose X amount of revenue, or we're going to incur regulatory findings, or whatever the case may be. So we look at them for lessons learned. We can also look at lessons learned in other high availability areas where they're saying, we really need to make sure that we manage risk very carefully. So then when somebody comes along, for example, from the public sector, or maybe from utilities, and they say, we're thinking about putting out smart meters. What should we be thinking about? Well, let's talk about this. You need to make sure you have reliability, you need to make sure that you have availability, security, and so forth. And there's going to be processes that we're going to want to do, like change management, configuration management, release management, that are going to give us stable, predictable operations. And you got to be very careful if you have the meter folks off in one corner doing their thing, corporate IT in another, and the two never talk, or they're at odds.
Good. That's a recipe for a problem.
Exactly, it absolutely is. And you can say, okay, I know that you guys are going to have to exchange data. These guys are going to want to generate bills. They're going to want to know what's going on. You folks are collecting data. It's going to have to go somewhere. You're going to have to talk. And it's because we're covering so many different groups that we can say, even though we haven't seen it specific yet, here are things that you might want to consider. So in a way, I call it cross-pollination, because you're able to take concepts and apply it based on the patterns that you see going on.
The boundaries are very wide. I mean, you mentioned smart meters. That's not really a desktop computer at all.
Oh, no,
that's
sir.
very different than some kind of network in a corporation.
Yeah.
That's really pushing, especially now, because smart meters and smart grids are really all the rage.
Yeah.
And there's a huge demand for smarter and smarter. There's a sort of vague definition about exactly what fits in that. But if you're doing that, you're doing much more than just the customary, IT consultation. You're looking at corporate missions, mission-critical things for companies that are essentially wedded to some kind of IT.
Well, it's all points in between. That's the interesting thing. Because when you look at a lot of organizations, medium, large, a lot of their capital projects, practically all of them are going to have some degree of IT investment in them. And we have to think about how we're going to manage them. And you have some organizations that are loosely coupled with IT, they're doing it for email, they're doing whatever, but they aren't absolutely lockstep held up by IT. But then you have other organizations where if IT stops, and even that definition of IT can be very nebulous, the business stops, okay? Whether it's, for example, an appliance manufacturer stopping because printers can't print, it's a healthcare organization having problems because their biomedical devices that are providing patient telemetry aren't able to communicate through the wireless network or whatever. You have a lot of very interesting things going on, but at the end of the day, they do have processors, they have internet addresses, they're networking. The methods can vary, but there are a lot of lessons learned that we can bring to bear regardless of the technology, but then you have to learn as these things are going on what are going to be the things that are going to come to the front. Like, for example, everybody's talking about cloud. You can't pick up a rock without finding the word cloud underneath it, right? Well, okay, if we're going to move more and more things to the cloud, one of the things we need to be thinking about is vendor management. But a lot of IT organizations haven't put a great deal of thought into integrating vendors into their systems of work. And that's just a for instance. But we know from past experience that if you're going to have a vendor that you're going to rely on very closely, you better pay some close attention as to how you integrate them.
It strikes me that in a world which is going down that track of everyone being wedded to technology, you can't function. You can't have a business any size without having technology. And in a world where the larger corporation has to have more sophisticated technology, not only to compete but to do global operations, Gartner becomes more and more. Your 950 people become more and more critical. So things must be good. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's a great company. I feel very lucky to work there.
What do I have to pay for an hour of your time?
You have to talk to him.
Okay.
I just show up and
right
smile.
answer. That's the
Yes.
correct answer.
Yes.
Dale and I rehearsed this earlier, and we knew you'd say that smart
He
answer.
pays me with PayPal.
Well,
We're lucky we get to bring these guys out at the cost of sales, but large corporations pay for their time to come in and
It's
talk
by
to the
hour,
board.
is the point is.
Day by the day, $12,000 a day.
Yeah. Okay.
Ballpark.
So that sort of establishes the baseline for what kind of company can have this benefit. On the other hand, it seems to me that a large company can't afford to have this in-house, or at least it must be very expensive to have it in-house, and you need it on a spot basis, troubleshooting basis. So if you outsource it to somebody like Gartner, you're better off.
The value we provide is they get to see a 360-degree view
Yes.
of what's going on in all types of industries, businesses. For example, Intel is one of our biggest accounts. Gartner's about a $2 billion company. Intel spends alone $25 billion on research, 12 times the amount on research that's bigger than Gartner. Yet they use Gartner a lot because they only get to see what they can see, whereas our analysts get to see that 360.
See all of it. Every time you work for any client, you're getting a lesson that you can use for others.
It's their insight is that they're sitting in the catbird seat. They're getting feedback from clients, vendors, users. They get to see it all.
And this is global. You're working global.
Yeah,
Correct.
Globally.
God, how do you sleep at night? How do you live with yourself? We're going to take a short break. This is Jay Fidell. We're here on ThinkTech Talks on a given Thursday with Gartner and Gartner executive George Spafford and local, shall I say, manager local?
Yeah, account executive.
Account executive Dale Aiello. And we're going to come back. We're going to talk about exactly what Gartner is doing on this trip. We'll be right back. 1 minute.
Hi, how are you? You feeling good? Are you feeling lucky? ThinkTech Hawaii, it puts a bubble in my bender. If you don't feel good, that's your fault. Now that's live TV, folks.
Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidell, ThinkTech Talks here on a Thursday with a double header. The first part of our double header is the Gartner Corporation, and we have with us Dale Aiello, who is the account executive here locally in Hawaii, and George Spafford, who is a member of the analyst team. 950 of which, that make you feel like just one out of a number. Did you know them all? Do you know the 949?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay, good. Are they in one place or all around
All
the
over
world?
the world. All over the world.
What a company, what a job. Would you ever have imagined this when you joined Gartner, that it was going to go this way?
Started 20 years ago with zero business in Hawaii, and now we've built it into a multi-million-dollar business.
Fantastic.
So, getting back to your point where you said the big companies rely, and that's the way it used to be, but now even small companies are affected by technology,
Yeah.
and the small companies need us more than the big companies because they don't have the resources to be able to do the due diligence required to select vendors, to do processes, pick products.
NSA needs you.
NSA is a big client of Gartner, but they won't tell anybody. You got to meet them in the parking lot somewhere, you know.
But let's talk about your trip, George. So today, this morning, at the Plaza Club, right here in this building, just before we had our ThinkTech program on the newsmorphosis, you were speaking on two separate subjects to, I guess, a list of invitees who were clients, or was it the
Well,
public?
just mostly to anybody interested in the IT topic that we discussed. A lot of clients and prospects,
Okay.
but IT professionals primarily.
Okay, so I mean, it wasn't just limited to clients. It's very nice
No,
of you.
we
Public
make
service.
it free. It's kind of our Gartner's way of contributing to the Hawaii
Yeah.
economy. We've done it for 20 years. We don't charge for it. And well, most of my clients and prospects look on it as a valuable training session. They
think
call
so.
it a training session. They learn a lot. 3 hours listening to smart guys talk about things
Yeah.
they're interested
I'm
in.
sure they
So
were all
it's a-
taking feverish notes yet.
Well, we send out the slide deck afterwards,
Oh,
so
very nice
they
of
don't
you.
have to take too many notes
Yeah.
and answer questions. So it's a great resource that these fellows provide.
So, George, tell us, in whatever level of language you want to use, we always tell the scientists, talk, in the
Layman's
language of
terms.
science. So, what did you discuss this morning? One of them was how to have predictable and reliable IT operations. The other was balancing the business requirements for speed and risk mitigation with enterprise applications. So,
Sure.
what were the takeaways that you wanted those guys to learn from during your talk?
Sure. Well, in the first presentation, what we wanted folks to realize was that if they want stable, reliable operations, they need to think about process. And there is a very commonly used reference source called the ITIL, or IDLE, the IT Infrastructure Library rather. And it's a reference library, and sometimes there's a misconception about how to use it. It's like the Encyclopedia Britannica for listeners old enough to remember what that is.
Oh, well, you have a couple at this time.
Yeah, sometimes I have to tell folks, hey, it's like Wikipedia, and then the young guys nod, you know. And
Terrible.
yeah, I know it. But the thing is, you know, a lot of folks think that, okay, if it's written here, I have to do it exactly this way. And everybody has their own agenda, you know, in terms of saying, hey, this is what IDLE says, this is how you should do it. And the important thing is to say, what does your business need, okay? IDLE is a collection of books, but the quality management philosophy it talks about is IT service management, which is providing IT services that meet the needs of the business. The basic idea is that our business customers want IT services from us, where they get the value, but they don't want the burden of all the costs and risks. You know, in other words, if they could do it better than us, why do they need us? Well, we want to make sure that we deliver it to them in a way that makes business sense so that they're getting that value. And when we're doing that, that means we have a combination of hardware, software, people, processes, facilities, etc., that all get rolled together in providing that service. So what we talked about was that, okay, IDLE is a reference library. To get value from it, you have to understand what your business needs, and you have to say, okay, how am I going to address this? Then and only then do you look to using something like IDLE or ISO 20000 or whatever reference source to get ideas from in terms of what you're going to implement. Some of the common mistakes have been to say, okay, here's the flow chart in IDLE, we're going to do it exactly like this. Well, it's abstracted down to some level of view, but not right down to the here's how you're going to do it level. It's meant to be something you look at and say, okay, if I'm going to manage changes or I'm going to manage incidents, here are potential steps. Does this make sense for me and what I want to accomplish? And it might be, yes, this one does, yes, this one does. I don't see the point in this one. Well, okay, don't do it, but at least you know it's there. So we spent some time talking about what IDLE is, how to approach it, etc. And one of the big takeaways, you know, going back to the earlier part of our discussion, was don't forget organizational change. You need to understand what you need to accomplish, but absolutely don't overlook the people.
You know, it's funny. I mean, I'm not certainly at the level of enterprise you're talking about, but it strikes me this, it always has struck me this, is that when you put technology in a company, you change the company. You know, when you insinuate a new technological process or system, you're changing the company.
Yeah.
But likewise, in order to do that, you have to understand the company. You can't come out and just foist it on them. You have to know them.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right, because when you're changing processes or you're changing the methods by which people do work, people have some degree of self-worth associated with how they do things today. And if you just brush that aside and say, okay, Monday morning we're doing it the new way, hold on, wait, I haven't even had training, what are you talking about? It can do some very strange things in an organization, yet over and over and over, we can see people roll out technology with little to no preparation of IT or the business to be ready for the new technology that's coming out, and then, okay, the train wreck starts. And you know, we have plenty of examples of that.
Oh, sure. Well, you know, it's like doing the case study method, because as Dan was saying, you look at another company, see what happened there, and you learn from that. And the one that really sticks in the brain of your students, so to say, is the company that didn't do so well.
Yeah.
That's the one you want to really learn for, because that's the scary part. Is what gets people attention.
When you have the comparison other.
Yeah. So have you covered both of them now? How to have predictable operations, and then you have, or are they both sort of linked up anyway?
Well, they're kind of linked, because with the first part, we're telling them about IDLE and how to get value from it, essentially. The second one, we're talking about balancing speed and risk, is to help them understand that one of the biggest challenges IT is facing today, at least certainly in IT operations, is how do we go fast enough to match the pace of the business? Okay, that's probably my number one call these days, where you have operations groups that grew out of like a regulatory environment or whatever, and they were beat over the head that thou shalt manage risk. Well, not surprisingly, they became risk averse, and they put in a lot of checklists and everything that took time and everything to go through before they'd let something go into production. Well, today you have organizations who are implementing changes nearly continuously into their environment, and that's a completely different world than what the old school IT operations folks are used to. So what we do is we talk to them about a construct Gartner has called PACE that helps them understand how they might tier their systems to better trade off risk and speed. And then we talk to them about what they might want to do with the change management, release management, configuration management types of processes to also try and step up speed. So they're related, but it was kind of two different takes, and we wanted to give them some food for thought.
Right. You put them together, you get a very robust understanding of how these things integrate. It strikes me, by the way, in the last minute or so of our discussion, that the state of Hawaii with Sunny Bagwalia and all that is now sort of jumping off a cliff by renewing legacy systems that have been in place and are dysfunctional over decades, which are critical to the state's operation. And you guys could really be helpful on
Sonny's
that.
a big Gartner advocate, and we're probably working on 10 projects with the state right now.
Good. I am happy to hear that.
So we're trying to save them from
because
themselves, maybe.
Yes. Yeah,
And the way
I think
they've
that's-
had the same systems for 40 years. So what George is talking about, now you're changing the systems. How are we going to change the people?
Yeah, I mean, from your comments, that's why I thought of the
I think
whole
a
thing.
third
with
of them
the
are
state.
eligible for retirement in the next 5 years. So
Yeah.
where are we going to
What
get
do we
the
do
resources?
then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, you guys. Dale, it's so nice for you to set this up. Dale Aiello
thanks for
from
inviting
Gartner
us.
Corporation at George Spafford. Wonderful to have you here. I hope you come back soon. If you don't, send someone else.
All right, absolutely.
But let's keep the thing going, all right?
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
George.
the
Great to
opportunity.
have you.
Yep. Thanks, Jay.
Dale, great to
Appreciate
have
it.
you. Thank you very much for coming down. Yay, Gartner. Emoa Gartner.
Why stop? It's going up.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Aloha, you guys. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidell. Mahalo.
Aloha, I'm Nicole Horry for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone No. 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Horry. Mahalo.
Good afternoon. We're having a double header. We just had Gartner Corporation, and now we're talking about the Space Consortium here on ThinkTech Talks on a Thursday in the 3 to 4 block. On the Space Consortium specifically, we have Art Kimura. Art Kimura, Program Director, Future Flight Hawaii. Boy, that has all kinds of promise there.
Yes.
And on the robotics side, we're going to see if we can put these together. We have Osa Tui, McKinley High School. The good news is that Art used to be at McKinley High School. They say all roads lead to or from McKinley. You stay there long enough, you see everybody you know.
Right.
So tell me what you guys do. Art, you start.
I'm a retired science teacher, taught at McKinley for 12 years, got involved with NASA 30 years ago, and I've been working now since my retirement for the Department of Education as an education specialist for the Space Grant Consortium. Primarily, our whole goal is workforce development, trying to develop the new generation of engineers and scientists.
That's great. This is payback, isn't it?
Yes.
You're doing this because you love to have this happen. You want to have for the benefit of all of us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great. Okay. Let's go to you, Asatui. You're what, teaching at McKinley High School? I can tell because you have this notes thing.
Yes.
Notes thing in your address.
So I was a math teacher at McKinley High School. Now I'm
Okay.
in a non-teaching position, but I used to do our math team, and then robotics came along, and suddenly I became part of robotics, and with the help of Art, who is the godfather of robotics in Hawaii.
Is that right?
No, that's a misnomer.
Yeah, I'm believing him on this one. Okay, so you're teaching or you're organizing robotics
with
at
our
McKinley
team,
for the
and
McKinley
we
students.
do a bunch of different types of robotics programs. One is called FIRST, one is called VEX. And so Art and I are here today to talk more about VEX.
I hope you
And,
realize how important robotics are.
Oh, we definitely. I wouldn't be putting in the hours and the hours in order to.
You're also doing payback, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely.
So you guys collaborating on stuff?
We do. We serve on committees together. We're organizing, for example, the state VEX program.
What's that stand for?
VEX is just a name of a particular program that's globally, I think it's the fastest growing program right now in the world. And primarily we have about 150 teams in Hawaii currently. And so we help organize regional tournaments and our state championship, which is sponsored by Hawaiian Electric Company.
Okay, the state championship is the robotics championship, or is it the space consortium?
No, this is the Hawaii State VEX Championship will take place in December at Honolulu Community College.
And what is the competition about?
Basically, there'll be 40 teams there which have qualified through regional tournaments, and they're all trying to vie for a spot in the World Championship that will take place in Anaheim in April.
Championship of what?
Also can explain the game.
Every year VEX comes out with a new game. The kids get all excited. This year it's a game called Toss Up. So
it's different every year.
They're different every year.
Interesting.
So this year it involves some large inflatable balls and some what they call buckyballs, from Buckminster
sure.
Fuller. And so you have to put it in. And so across the state of Hawaii, Big Island has had 5 tournaments. Maui is going to have 2. Oahu's going to have 9. And they have from these. We're starting up this elementary middle school program called VEX IQ. So they have these little mini buckyballs, and so they're doing that. And then we have the middle school and high schoolers who compete.
Everybody plays.
Everybody plays, and everybody's now vying for a spot to the World Championship that's going to take place in December, so that they can go to Anaheim in April.
So what do you win? Rose Bowl? You know what the Rose Bowl is? Yeah.
It's pretty amazing going to the World Championship. Last year when I was there were 12,000 people cheering on these kids who are smart. That's really a celebration of.
So they have the categories with groups grouped by grade or age, or they?
Yes, they even have a college level one called VEX U. So what do you win? You win the opportunity to pay more money to attend more competitions. So you win the opportunity to try to fundraise more and stuff like that.
So they're going to solve this problem. They're going to build something in the process.
Yes.
And it could be robotics, but it could be something else too, I guess.
Well, primarily the teams are focused on the game for that particular season.
Okay.
Certainly there's extensions that go on, and we're hoping one day that we can have some real world challenges taking advantage of these kids' creativity to develop something that could be very useful to society.
Okay, the game now is
Toss Up.
So how does this work? What's
So
the
it's on a
challenge?
12 by
faced
12
with?
field, and so it starts the match that the robots will move autonomously and try to score points, and then they'll get a bonus if they do more than their opponents, and then they'll have a minute and 45 to go at each other and try to score as many points as they can. But in the process, I mean, the kids like competition. In the process, they learn about building, they learn about programming and so forth, and how to present, because now they have what's called a design award. So they have to present to judges, come with an engineering notebook, so forth and so on. So we're trying to develop those type of skills so that they can go to the college level and be prepared for what they're going to see.
Sure. And life.
Yes,
you know?
definitely.
So do you consult with them? You mentor them? Do you help them? How do you help them?
It depends on the team. Most I think teams empower the students to become the expert, where the teacher is more a facilitator, keep them safe.
That's the modern
supervise,
approach. Yeah.
And so the kids really know more than the adults most times, which is the right way.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But robotics really is, like you mentioned, it's really about life skills. It's not so much just building a robot. They learn things that will be helpful to them no matter what career path they take.
So if you want to address the competition, I go and look. I research it. I go find out how other people are doing it. I go out and I find what materials and programming and languages, what have you. So I start from scratch. And I guess that's good, because I could come up with some innovative thing that nobody else has thought of yet if you let me go by myself instead of doing it all for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the really nice things about robotics globally is the collaboration that goes on. Although it's competition, you are encouraged to share your ideas.
Yeah.
You're encouraged to copy other people's ideas. In that way, everybody's bar is raised, and that, I think that's a good thing.
So is this curricular or extracurricular?
It depends on the school.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
different
depends
schools
on-
can do it differently.
Some schools
Okay.
decide to incorporate it into their
How
curriculum.
about McKinley?
And so McKinley, the kids don't want to take another class. They know they can do robotics, so they want to get other things
Oh,
in.
okay, okay. So
we
it's
have it as an-
extracurricular.
we have it as
Oh, that's good.
extracurricular,
That's
yeah.
good. And they're passionate about it. They spend all their time on it.
Yes.
It's better that than in the midnight reading, doing
Absolutely.
the games at 3 o'clock in the
Absolutely.
morning.
So that's something we also tell our parents. We have kids who don't have necessarily the best grades, but we keep them off the streets. We keep them from doing things that are gonna, cause problem with other things. So they enjoy just being active. I have those ADHD type kids who just want to work and work and work.
And they work together. They
Yes.
work in teams. It's collaborative. It's a
Absolutely.
group thing.
Yes.
So, one thing that I learned this because I was associated for a few years with the science fair, which you guys must touch, you must be right next to that. The science fair was extraordinary in the sense that if I could do it, make a project that would win, take me to the regionals or the nationals, whatever, then one thing would be clear is I could believe in myself. I could believe I was capable of first-class science. And once I believe that, I can do anything. I can go to MIT, I can be whatever I want to be. But some system, some organization, some competition had to show me that. And once it did, there was really no issue that I could do that. I could have the confidence. Is this also something you seek to achieve in the robotics
Absolutely. What they
program?
say for robotics is that unlike basketball, football, in robotics, everyone can become a professional. Everyone can become the best that they can be and make a life out of it, rather than football, basketball, where only select few will be able to do that. So,
I'll tell you a short story and see what you think about it. Just last week, ThinkTech went out to, what is it called? Snug Harbor. Snug Harbor is a UH facility on the Sand Island Road. They have some ships there, research ships and bathyspheres, underwater submersible data gathering vehicles. And the reason we went out there was there was a press release, and a number of the press were there, about a harbor surveillance autonomous vehicle, or at least radio control vehicle. And some fellows at UH, at the School of Engineering, with other disciplines involved, built this thing, and it works really swell. You can send it around the harbor, and it can sense what's in the water, what's around it, what's above it. It's not like it has a cannon on the top. It's all about sensors, and the sensors now are very sophisticated. But it reminded me of robotics. It was the same thing. It was a radio-operated robotic device, and they're selling it. This is going to emanate from Hawaii. I believe they have a manufacturer already in contract, or about to be in contract. And once they get this together, this is going to be national or international from here, from UH, from the School of Engineering. And it's all about robotics and solving problems and figuring out stuff that, nobody's figured out yet. So
Sure.
that's why I'm excited about what you're doing.
It is. I've had the experience of working with a school in Hilo, for example, that does micro-robotics, where the kids design from scratch a 1 cubic inch robot that's totally autonomous. I mean, and when you think of the skill level involved, these students don't know that really it's too hard for them, but they go to Japan and compete against college students from Asia, and they win. So I think the bar is really high, and so a program like what the university is developing certainly can lead toward manufacture and sales, like you mentioned.
It also gives them a global consciousness.
Yeah.
I think too often in Hawaii we tend to focus in on, what's within 10 miles of where we're standing. And if we have a global consciousness, then our horizons, by definition, are better. And so if you put a kid in a national or international competition, by definition, you're increasing that.
absolutely.
So now he thinks in terms of competing with, engaging with people everywhere. That is really great.
Also for us, we connect students with people in industry. So like we'll have a bunch of Hawaiian Electric mentors come to our campus and work with our students, and so they get that kind of perspective on what it takes in the real world, so forth and so on. And Hawaiian Electric will do stuff like they'll take our kids as interns. They hire a bunch of our kids, and when you're talking about, Hawaii is doing this, we want to build that skill set in Hawaii, kids that can stay in Hawaii and help, improve our community and so forth and so on. Then instead of having to import all these workers, and the high
Better to build them at home.
Absolutely, that's what we want to do.
It's just like the robotics.
So the robot is just the match that gets them fired up with all these things.
That's great. That's great that Hawaiian Electric's involved in that too. I mean, it's a corporate, good citizen thing to do that, and it's really important. So what has this got to do, this is rhetorical because I'll ask you seriously in a minute, what has this got to do with space? Now hold that thought, we're going to take a short break, a 1-minute break. We'll be right back after. This is ThinkTech. We're talking to Osa Tui and Art Kimura. They're brothers in science, as it were. Brothers in teaching kids science. We'll be right back after this break. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidell. Mahalo. We're back. We're live. We're ThinkTech on a given Thursday, 3 to 4 block. And we're talking with Osa Tui, McKinley High School, and Art Kimura, formerly of McKinley High School, now the program director of Future Flight Hawaii. And the cliffhanger question that we left before the break was, so Art, what does space have to do with robotics? Explain to the people.
Well, if you remember last August when NASA landed Curiosity on Mars, that was an amazing achievement, to think that we could land precisely on target planet that far away, and all robotic. So we have robots on Mars, we have space missions that all start as robotics, and then eventually humans will follow you. So
what is the Future Flight Hawaii and the Hawaii Space Grant Consortium, which is actually at UH Manoa?
Yes.
What is it doing?
Future Flight Hawaii is a program that's now 24 years old. It's primarily, we started as a summer space camp on the Big Island. We are now here on Oahu, but Space Grant's whole mission is to support undergraduate internships for students interested in space careers. We also have a number of community outreach programs. This Saturday, for example, we have the Astronaut Lacey Beach Day of Discovery. It's now in its 12th year, been sponsored by HECO for the 12 years, and we have 600 people coming. So the community is very interested in any science opportunities for the young child. And so we see it in robotics, where the parents come and support the teams, but also in many community science activities that we do. Parents are clamoring for their children to get involved in science.
I want to talk about that. I think that's really a key. People say, right or wrong, they say that that a lot of kids are not motivated because their parents don't motivate them, and they say the schools, are not really supposed to motivate them, but their parents, if their parents don't motivate them, they don't get motivated, and they go soft, and they don't have brilliant careers, and it all goes, to minimum wage, which is really shame. So you guys are in the middle, aren't you, of the process by which kids get motivated. How do we do that here in Hawaii to be sure that we have a whole generation of kids that are motivated in science, especially science?
I think as a society, we have to demand more. I think parents make choices for their children. They decide which camps they go to, what kind of toys they buy for them early on, what kind of interests that they develop long term, all are founded by parents initially. So many of our programs now are parent-child programs because
both involved, they both participate.
Right, we want them to have a common experience so that when they go home, they can have extended discussions about what they've experienced rather than just having the child participate.
Oh, that's so important, the discussion. It's more than science, it's family.
That's correct. And say, robotics, you see that all the time when parents come, they walk in a pit, they mentor the student, help us mentor students. So it's constantly, we're trying to get the parents involved in this whole educational process.
Yeah. Well, that's really, I mean, this is a problem. I mean, do you have to work especially hard to make that happen? How do you make a parent who isn't otherwise inclined to do this, how do you motivate him so that he gets involved and motivates his child? How do you do that?
Well, I think
Baseball bat? You know,
well,
excuse me, we're here. And bang, you know.
I think we just have to do it in a number of ways and give parents every opportunity to engage their child in a common experience, like we say. We do family science nights, for example. 150 people come out to those in the cafeteria 2 hours after work. And you can see in their faces, they wish they had this as a child, the same experience. So we have to have more public events. We need more community support. We're very fortunate that we work with a number of companies that have the same interests and same motivation. I think the challenge for all of us educators is we're trying to teach and train students for jobs that haven't been created yet.
That's the problem. It's a moving target.
Exactly.
It's a conundrum. You have to have the workforce, but then you have to have the jobs. You're not going to get the workforce without jobs. You're not going to get the jobs without, anyway. So you have to, how do you do that? You have to keep your eye on the ball all the time.
Well, I believe in relevant, engaging, project-based learning, which is what robotics is all about. Mm-hmm. Because there needs to be an outcome that the students can be measured against. And robotics has been framed in a way that taken advantage of sports and entertainment, and because those are very popular with our society. And so you see the robotics program, the competitions are very similar to sports competitions, except you're having students design something that they can end up operating on the field.
So we always like to ask, we have a couple of minutes left for this. I wouldn't say it's a hard question, but it's a question we always ask. So what are the problems? You guys have a great mission. You have some great achievements going on. You are very valuable to the community in your own right and in collaboration with other similar organizations. But where are you having trouble? And what are you doing to overcome that?
Go ahead.
We never promised you a rose garden.
I mean, for teams, just coming up with money is always an issue. Money is always an issue, the root of all evil, and so forth, so on. But for us, I mean, just to enter the competition we want to do is over $5,000. And that's just to play, and then you have to buy all the supplies and so forth and so on. And our kids they'll cut up metal and stuff like that. And it's like, no, why are you cutting up this metal? Cut up scrap pieces. So you always have to keep buying more and more stuff. So
yeah, because it does require material and devices and so forth.
And kids just
radios and whatnot.
And it's not coming out of the kids aren't doing chores for, well, maybe we should have them do chores, but they just go for it. And we want to provide them all that opportunity. So, I mean, although that's not necessarily a problem, it's just something we always have to overcome.
So how do you overcome it?
Fundraising.
Theoretical or more practical?
Yeah, we try to fundraise, we go out, we do demonstrations, try to get our name out there, try to let people know that, this is a good cause, something that kids really can benefit from, our society can benefit from.
How much do you expect the parents to throw into the kitty on this kind of thing?
Oh yeah, so when we have shortfalls, it's just a matter of, okay kids, you're gonna have to pay more to go to the Big Island like we went, or to go out to the mainland to compete. Yeah. We also want to be competitive when we go out to these competitions. We don't want, and we've had some luck with that, but try to do our best to put our best foot forward.
Other challenges? I'll give you one that comes to my mind.
Well, I think as much notoriety as robotics has had in the growth of robotics from a few teams now to over 600 teams in Hawaii, we're still hitting less than 3% of students have access to participation. Because of various constraints. Money is one issue. I think the key issue is finding a teacher that's willing to give up hundreds of hours for free after school. Certainly we need to develop a better system than like sports coaches get paid, so perhaps we need to develop a system where robotics coaches get paid as well. So there are a number of issues. We would like the access to participation at a much broader level. A school can say they have a robotics team, but if they have 600 students and only 10 get to play, is that fair?
How about the other 590? They don't feel so good.
And not everybody wants to do robotics, and not everybody maybe should, but those that want to should have the opportunity to do it. That's a common complaint I hear from parents.
Yeah. Well, in the end, it's numbers. But the question I was going to ask, everybody always talks about DOE, the bureaucracy, the oppressive,
Yes.
barrier to innovation, to achievement. And I know that's not necessarily true in any given place or school or principal and whatnot. But I just wonder if that gets in the way for you, can it constitute a barrier? And if so, how do you deal with other schools cooperating and supporting your program?
Well, again,
You can answer slowly if you want. Maybe we should take another break. No, I'm kidding.
I think it varies from school to school. In general, I think the administrator is very supportive. Teachers are supportive. Parents are supportive. Again, it comes down to resources. Trying to find the right resource. Schools are really having a difficult time because there are federal mandates that they have to follow. So we understand that.
That's time. That's the time of the students and the teachers. Yeah.
Correct. I think the key is we have to have change in the classroom, because then we become more pervasive than we are now.
Yeah. So what about the legislature? Are they giving you any money?
Well, we were very fortunate a few years ago where the legislature passed what became Act 111 that gave us a 2-year real boost, and in those 2 years we significantly increased the number of teams that could participate.
Hundreds of thousands, millions, what?
About 400,000.
That sounds a nice, healthy piece of change. Yeah.
Right. But,
But you got to get that to happen again now.
and there's a new initiative the Lieutenant Governor has called the REACH program that has great potential, because this is for middle schoolers, like an after-school program, which will include robotics, and so that has great potential, I think.
Well, let me offer you this, you guys. We love science. Okay, we love every organization in the state that promotes science, and every person involved. And we're here. And if it helps you, if it's part of your, mission, part of the way you see, support unfolding for you, we're happy to showcase your kids, their projects, their competitions, the winners, and so forth, anytime. So if you call me, we'll set up one of these for them, and we'll interview them, and they'll have a chance to explain, and the people who listen to them will have a chance to understand. And wouldn't that be nice? So
It would be. Thank you.
let me know
And if
anytime.
people want to come out and see the competitions, there's one going on November 1st at Mililani High School, or there's the state championship going on at HCC on December 20th.
Okay, and I got a website over here that maybe it's where is it now? I don't have a website. It's spacegrant.hawaii.edu. Is that relevant?
They could come to that. Better if they email me or Osa, and we'd be happy to share information with them.
Okay, you want to give your email on that?
Yes, art@higp.hawaii.edu.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll
How
leave it
about
at
you,
that.
Osa?
Oh, he's Space Grant Conserve. No, he's the godfather. We'll leave it.
The lightning rod on us.
He's a living treasure. He's going to be, the legislature has just determined that him and his wife, living treasure in Hawaii. So,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
Congratulations. Art Kimura and Osa Tui doing good work for the science of our state. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay,
Aloha,
so
you
much.
guys. That's ThinkTech for the 3 to 4 block. We'll be right back with Asia in Review.